If you don't like current Doctor Who, don't watch it, is the phrase I've been hearing quite a lot recently. I hear it quite a lot on Twitter. Go follow me, link in the description. But that is a phrase that I really do disagree with, and in today's video I think I want to do less of the multiple camera angles, big edits, big wavy hands. I'd just quite like to talk about that statement. Because for me, I think it's utter rubbish. Right now, in the Doctor Who community, I'd say the fandom is kind of in three big groups. Like, if you're a Doctor Who fan, you almost definitely fit into one of these. There are massive Jodie fans and supporters. There are people that are really strongly against Jodie and Chibnall in this kind of new era. And there are those quite strongly in the middle. I think all three of these groups are quite strong. And within themselves, I don't actually think there's anything wrong with these groups, apart from maybe this group of people that just hate it in its entirety, because quite a lot of the time that there is some sexism involved in that group. There's sometimes also some legitimate criticism in that group, but yes, there is quite a lot of your very angry people. But the statement we're talking about today comes from this group, these real big Jodie supporters. Which, as I think is important to keep reiterating in this video, there's nothing wrong with really enjoying this era. In fact, I am jealous of you. Because yes, I sit definitely in this middle group where I'm trying to enjoy a lot of the Jodie and Chibnall era, and I have to admit quite a lot of it isn't working for me. So from that perspective, I'm jealous of people that are enjoying this era, because guess what? Doctor Who is a show I love, I want to enjoy it. But let's take it back to our statement. If you don't like current Doctor Who, you shouldn't watch it. Because recently that's been a statement that's bandied about a lot, but the other big example we've had recently is some of the MCU projects, especially Miss Marvel and She-Hulk. So I might relate some examples to Doctor Who more and some examples to the MCU a little bit more, but overall I do want to discuss this blanket statement. Because these two franchises are quite similar in the state they are with fans. They are long-running, really popular franchises that people love that are going through some difficult times. I mean, I think that's fair to say for both. I think overall people seem to enjoy Moffat a lot more than Chibnall, and people seem to enjoy, you know, your Phase 3 with, you know, Infinity War and Endgame than they have with anything really from Phase 4. And that's kind of like my first rebuttal to this statement, is that these franchises have their fans. And as fans, you're going to watch what comes from a franchise you love. For example, take it back a few years when I sat down to watch Praxeus for the first time. But would I have known that before I started watching it? No. The problem is, am I guaranteed to enjoy it? No. Do I want to watch it as a fan? Yes. This example is also kind of weird because with She-Hulk I have actually found myself enjoying it more than most, so that's kind of where I stand. But I think when people say don't watch it, they also sometimes mean don't criticize it. A lot of my ideas for this video have come from me looking on Twitter and like being frustrated with this experience. Again, my Twitter's linked in the description. Please go follow me. I probably will follow most people back. I kind of do. But just generally, you see a lot of takes of, if you don't like it, why are you criticising it? Or one of the ones that really gets to me, especially in the Doctor Who community, is when people will see you criticise someone like Chris Chibnall and go, why wouldn't you criticise Russell or Stephen in the same way? First of all, the Chibnall era is currently ongoing. Fantastic example of this is, again, in the MCU, is I wouldn't go and suddenly decide to criticise The Incredible Hulk. I'm perfectly welcome to, but it's a film that came out nearly 15 years ago. Why would I feel the need to suddenly go and talk about it? Yet if I felt like I wanted to criticise She-Hulk or anything like that, I would feel warranted, or even anything in Phase 4, because Phase 4 is currently ongoing. And it's the same with Doctor Who. I don't feel a particular, you know, love to the power of 3, but I don't criticise it because it doesn't really feel relevant to criticise it. Yet the Chibnall era is an ongoing era, and therefore I feel like if I have an opinion on Chibnall, it is more relevant to talk about it. I think it's also important to look at how extremes are sometimes not always the way to go anyway. I think it's important to look at why, in my case, I feel like both extremes can have their problems. I think for She-Hulk, this is a big problem right now. With She-Hulk, for example, it is getting a lot of criticism really stupidly for, you know, taking this male character and giving him the female version, which people are stupidly criticising, and if they are incredibly sexist. But the problem is sometimes that means any criticisms for She-Hulk, especially from a male perspective, can be labelled as misogynist. Or misogynistic, if I could get my grammar right. What that sometimes means in the extreme fan scenario is if I was to say call out She-Hulk CGI, I could end up getting called a misogynist just because I genuinely don't like the show. As I said, I do, but I'm kind of generalising here. And that is also the same for the Doctor Who community. I'm not going to say any specific names because I don't want to land myself in specific dramas, but people that use Doctor Who Twitter regularly know the certain users that tweet stupid things because they are just sexist. Then that also means sometimes people aren't allowed to criticise an era because they might get labelled a similar thing. Something like Phasmin, for example, is a very interesting case. Sometimes it's hard to criticise things, for example, when it gives representation to certain minorities. And I want to say representation is brilliant. I am so for TV becoming diverse and that is the way the world should be. The world is a more interesting place when everyone feels represented. But I think it becomes tough to talk about Phasmin sometimes. A good comparison is people can happily talk about Ten and Rose. Because Ten and Rose is a heterosexual relationship, people can give their opinions on whether the Doctor, as a character, should be romantically involved within a companion. However, to some, people can't criticise Phasmin because it is a gay relationship. I'm not even sure on my opinions on Phasmin itself, because I'm not sure. Has it been particularly well done? Not really, because I personally feel like it's been a bit rushed. But then it's a difficult scenario because it means so much to certain people, but then if you have a criticism with it, people can take it in the ways that they want to take it. Plus for me, it all comes back down to however well it's done, I don't think I'm interested in the Doctor having romantic relationships in general. So, in a way, I don't think it works to go, you can't criticise this because it means so much to me. I think where the conversation becomes more interesting is if there's someone who feels represented by the Phasmin storyline, stands up for it within a conversation, that can go, right, this is why I feel represented within it. That creates a more structured and interesting argument than you can't criticise it because it represents me. Again, I'm interested in comments on this video because if you feel like you disagree with me, I am curious and I want an interesting debate here. That's what I always love, is not just the blanket answers, it's where you can really get the meat of some conversation. Look, have I just done quite a waffly video and maybe not stuck to the point too well? Probably. I feel like I completely disagree with the idea that you can't criticise something if you don't like it. Yes, in an ideal world, everyone would love things and everyone would be positive about things. But when people are talking about these much-loved franchises, I think debate is interesting, and when we get to these blanket answers, that's when things become dull. And sometimes when you live in these more extreme fan or non-fan areas, you sometimes think your blanket answers are the be-all and end-all. And if you can come up with more reasoned arguments, that's when life is more interesting. That's my take for the day. Feel free to comment and subscribe, that'll be lovely. So I'd be quite interested if people enjoy these more just like laid back, this is my opinion on the state of the world, not really state of the world, state of Doctor Who opinions, and if you just like a bit more of a calmer style video, let me know, because I've quite enjoyed just talking and I'll happily do it again. If people want to check out a video of these like Doctor Who playlists I'm going to do, it's just like any Doctor Who video I've ever done, you can just scroll through and see what you fancy. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.